Welcome all sports fans, YouTubers, Facebookers, all social media across the nation. This is Uneducated Sports Talk. This is college casual football talk as well. I'm your host, Clayton. This is my man, Brian Wilkinson. What's up, baby boy? B-Dubs in the house, y'all. And guess what? Probably the biggest game of the year is going down in Baton Rouge, where the LSU Tigers, number 3, will face off against Bama, king of college football over the last decade, number 1 overall team that will face off this week. Is going to go down. But, of course, that's week 10. We got to preview week 9 before we get to week 10. So, B-Dub, nice to see you again.
Yeah.
Let's get down with week 9, a recap before we get into the rankings that came down this Tuesday. We got a lot to talk about. So, let's just recap week 9 before we get into that. Florida versus Georgia was the biggest talk at the time. It was 9 versus 7. And, it was Team B-Dub versus Team C-Los. I, once again, took the L, so it's not looking good for Team C-Los. We just thought Florida come on in there. Florida, a lot of big turnovers for them, a lot of sloppy play for them. Georgia just basically dominated the game. You saw the score 36-17.
Went in and handled business.
Handled it in a big way, too. That was a big, not going to say a statement win, but it's a much-needed win for a Georgia team who has to stay relevant by, by winning, obviously.
Georgia's still a really good team.
Yes.
And really, the only issue I think with the weird play last week was that everybody, myself included, was just looking really down on this LSU team this year. And they've been game and they've come to play and they've won a lot of games and they're a really good squad. And Georgia by no means is any slouch. They just went in and took care of business on neutral site.
It's not a shame for your resume as of right now. Your one loss comes to number 3 ranked LSU.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad. Georgia still is in the driver's seat of the SEC East as long as they continue to win. But they got a big test.
Talk more about that later.
Later on, we'll talk about that, like you said. So Georgia pulls it out. Florida, their season is done now. The 2 losses, pretty much. They can't bounce back from that. But there's still a chance for a great bowl game. And
still a lot of respect for the committee there. We'll talk about that a little bit later, too.
Yes, we will. We have Iowa versus Penn State. That was 17-18. Going into it with Penn State ranked 17, Iowa ranked 18, and that was a good matchup with Penn State squeaking out then 30-24, basically the last minute drive and then the last minute standoff against Iowa. And Iowa is always a tough team, and they tend to play very well on the road against big opponents.
They do.
Yeah, whether it be a win or loss at the end of the day, Iowa was a tough team. And Penn State, to even keep their slim chances alive.
Had to win this game.
They had to win this game, exactly. With Ohio State getting blown out by Purdue last week, the Big Ten doesn't have room for error now.
No.
So you got to win these games, and it's crazy. But talk about Penn State now. How do you feel about Penn State squeaking it out? What does it mean for them?
Again, this is a good, solid win. This Iowa team, the Hawkeyes are always just a really game squad.
Right.
They stick it to Ohio State very often. They can think of a couple of memorable Penn State-Iowa games over the last couple of years. Really this was more for Iowa's sake, per se. Penn State is still a really slim chance, and Iowa's chances are even slimmer. But thanks to Wisconsin losing last week, Iowa is now pretty much firmly in the driver's seat on that side of the Big Ten Conference. So we'll see how that shakes out. We've got another big Big Ten game coming up this week, Michigan and Penn State, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Washington State and Stanford?
Washington State they've proven me semi-wrong this year. They're always that program over the last 4 or 5 years under Mike Leach that they've scored a lot of points. They're not flashy, but they win a lot of games, and whatever. They get 2-3 losses for the season. You never hear from them. But this year, they go into Stanford, which isn't an easy game, no matter who you are. But to get any win on the road, no matter who you are, it's always big. But for Washington State, a team like that, who you think of when you think of Washington State, you think of finesse. Offense and defensively. And this game was an offensive game, and we all know about the Pac-12 and offense still rules and is always king. Washington State comes in and handles business against Stanford, 41-38, in a game that so it's almost like Stanford said, you know what, we need the Pac-12 to stay relevant. We can't beat you guys. No, you guys got to beat us because you're our last chance for us to represent in a big bowl game or the Rose Bowl type or playoffs, because they need that recognition. Now, Washington State's a big game because usually in these type of games, they'll come in there and get flat out blown out.
Mm-hmm.
Usually. This team, after beating the Oregon team, now you thought that there was your Super Bowl. I was like, man, that's a Super Bowl. They're done for the rest of the year. Like, they'll lose eventually. And I figured they'd lose against Stanford, to be honest. I had Stanford winning this game. But Washington State proved me and a lot of these people wrong. And that's why they're in a great spot in the rankings. We'll talk about that in just a minute as well. So, big win for Washington State. Stanford is out of it, but they've been out of it, let's just be honest. But big win for Washington State, and that they move on. And hopefully they can represent the Pac-12, maybe. But another shocker, Texas goes into Oklahoma State. It wasn't really a shocker because these Big 12 games, they always scare me for teams that are coming in as the hunted. Those games always scare me because the Big 12...
Anybody can always win.
Yeah, exactly. If you're a road team and you're playing against, if you're a road ranked team in the Big 12 and you're playing against an opponent, whoever you play, whether it's Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, whoever, Iowa State, they're going to put up points.
They are.
They'll find a way to put up points in a Big 12 game, which is natural. And Texas lost 35-38 in a game that was kind of controlled by Oklahoma State the whole entire time, but Texas had the chances to make this game. And a big win for Oklahoma State, but a huge loss for Texas. That gives them now 2 in the year after coming in at ranked number 6. And you figure, man, if they can get this game and somehow beat West Virginia the next week, boy, these guys are rolling now. Because the rankings just came out, and they could have easily been a top 14.
Could have easily been a top 14
with this win against Oklahoma State. And just playing those type of games is difficult because now Texas over the last basically since Vince Young has left, they have not been the hunted. They've been the hunters and just haven't looked good. Now, this year in particular, ever since that Maryland loss, they've been the hunted. And I was worried about them. I was worried about them against Kansas State, to be honest, when they won that 19-14. But I said, man, the Oklahoma State and that West Virginia game is going to be some big games. And they came up just a little bit short. But the season is far from over for Texas. They can still run the table.
Not. They could.
And either,
they could still potentially play for a Big 12 championship.
Yes, exactly. And you never know, Oklahoma will be right there again waiting for them. And if they can somehow beat Oklahoma twice in one season, and let alone Oklahoma doesn't have another loss, things looking could be looking back up for Texas. But quick thought on Texas and that loss.
You know what? This is a lot better than the season looked like it was going to be after that first loss.
That's true.
To Maryland. So, as a Texas fan, if I were a Texas fan, I wouldn't be strictly too upset with this loss. You went in and beat the best, arguably the best team in the Big 12, which is Oklahoma.
Right.
And that was a game for the ages to have watched. So, to drop one to Oklahoma State, I don't think is that big of a deal. Not
a horrible loss.
No.
And Oklahoma State is always going to be a tough team. They weren't ranked, but I mean, it's always a run and gun team. Mike Gundy's always got the team. I'm 40. I'm a man. I always like that. But
so many good offenses. So many good offenses.
You can't relax in the Big 12. Let me say that. ACC, sort of relax.
Yeah.
Pac-12, sort of relax depending on what team you are. But in the Big 12, I don't care who you play, you can't relax
Everybody
1
scores.
second because everyone scores. So that's our week 9 recap of it. But now we've had what everyone's waiting for. The first college football playoff rankings has come. So we'll start off with number 12, Central Florida, haven't lost a game. As of right now, as we speak, they're in a very tight battle
with Temple.
And I think it's 34-28 at halftime. So that's to tell you how crazy that game is.
Favor of Temple.
Central Florida, UCF cannot afford to lose a single game, let alone have close games at home. So I look for Central Florida to run the tables in this particular game and go ham in the second half and that defense come up. But if they somehow can win a game big, they'll be fine. But if they win games slowly or close or even lose a game, they have no chance of making this in this playoff. Just
highest initial committee ranking for any non-Power 5 team.
Yeah.
At the start of the rankings.
SEC is still running king because of course number 11, our shocker, Florida. They're in there with how many losses that makes? That's two losses, right?
Two losses.
2 losses, yeah.
They lost to number 9, Kentucky, and they lost to number 6, Georgia.
Not bad losses, but that lets you know that SEC is always going to be favored as long as they're the kings of other conferences right now.
Just so deep.
And they are deep, and they're scary. And everyone's saying, oh, well, when they play against each other. But the few times we see the SEC play against outside the conference, they usually dominate. They dominate. So, I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. The SEC is still king. And the first rankings, it made us realize that they do favor the SEC. Because we're going on to the Big Ten. Let's talk about Ohio State at number 10 for a second. There are 2 of the Big Ten teams. But the Big Ten has kind of got slighted in this, in my opinion. We talked about the top 25. They've been very slighted in this the committee's eyes. Now, ACC is kind of, now we don't go over the whole entire top 25, but ACC has a lot of teams in the top 25. It's Syracuse and teams like that. Like, whoa, but can they beat teams like Michigan State? We don't really know. Michigan has an off year, but Michigan State's not ranked. We got other Big Ten teams. I can't remember their names right now, but they're not ranked as well. We do have Michigan, though, and Ohio State ranked in the top 12. Ohio State, that lost Purdue, I didn't think they dropped so low to number 10.
Credit where credit is due. They still won 7 other games.
Yeah.
So they are still in the top 10. I think number 10 is kind of fitting. I think number 10 is kind of fitting with the one loss being so bad
yeah.
to an unranked squad. But also they still... anywhere in that top 10 coming into the final few weeks of the season, you can is still game because you only got to get to number 4. So anywhere within the top 10 is still game and still plenty of time to be decided. And we've got two of these spots will be vacated by the end of the week. We haven't gotten to that yet, but 2 of these spots will be gone.
Kentucky comes in at number 9. That's probably the biggest shocker for me. Kentucky over Ohio State. Yes, they've had just the one loss for the season, but I was like, Kentucky at number 9, do they really have that much faith in Kentucky? Like you said, we'll find out after this weekend for sure as they face Georgia. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But Kentucky was a shocker for me. I think it was one of those, let's just put them there at 9 and see what happens. Because if they beat Georgia,
then you're right.
Well, they were right about where we put them at. If they lose to Georgia, I'll just knock them down. It's Kentucky.
They were 9. They weren't that far up anyway.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. I'm hoping it's a close game, win or loss for either team, but both coming in one loss. We'll talk about this in a minute, though.
The lone representative from the Pac-12, Washington State, in at number 8, and last and only hope, the Washington Huskies also lost last week, so they're the only team left in the Pac-12 with a single loss. Everybody else has 2 losses. Every other team in this conference has 2 losses, except for Washington State.
Yeah, with that big win for Stanford, that's the reason why they're in this top 12, top 10, what they're going to call it. The reason why, if they lost that Stanford game, they're nowhere near the top 12. They're just out of it, to be honest. So, big win for them, and hope they can keep it going. At number 7, we got the Oklahoma Sooners. And it's kind of right. That Oklahoma versus Georgia, if they become one-loss teams, that's going to be a tough debate. It's always going to be tough. Like the last 3 years, it's been like Oklahoma or Georgia. Who you want? So Oklahoma at number 7, you kind of like that? Them being
I think that's
Georgia?
a good spot. I like that spot. Really, you're looking at 2 different philosophies when you're talking about each team. So Georgia being more ball control, Oklahoma obviously with the gun style from the Big 12, and quite fitting. Georgia is number 6, so they're playing right there head to head. I like it. I like what they said.
I look, like I said, it's first rankings. So I mean, you just throw it out there, 6 and 7. They can flip flop, and no one will have an argument about it. But I do like Oklahoma at number 7, and of course, it's at number 6. Georgia is over there. Like I said, we have the big game against Kentucky, so we'll find out a lot more about them, and they're going to be the road team, so be a very tough environment for them. And
this one was the shocker for me.
Okay.
In this top 10, Michigan at number 5.
Yeah.
Michigan's schedule is not all that strong. Although they did only lose to Notre Dame.
Right,
they haven't played. Remember, Michigan hasn't played the tough part of their schedule. They got Penn State coming up this week. Ohio State is at the end of the year. They beat Michigan State. They beat who else? Can anybody tell me? I don't know. Michigan's schedule is just not that strong right now. And for them to be above,
they dominated Nebraska.
for them to be above Georgia and Oklahoma, is just wild to me at this point.
Another case for Kentucky, well, not case for Kentucky, but the case that we have for Kentucky, Michigan's like, they're like, just throw Michigan in there with one loss. I mean, we'll find out if they beat a Penn State team. We were right about where we put them at. If they lose, just put them down. And they was like, well, no one's worried about that anymore. Like I said, it's the first rankings.
Yeah.
So you're always going to have that because it's the first ranking of the season, so everyone's going to have a lot of talk about it. But at the same time, you're not worried about it if you're the committee. Like, we got like 5 weeks of this left,
man. We got a lot of time to
we can always put them up or put them down. It's just that simple, that easy.
Well, let's get to the most important block.
So our top 4 right now, if the playoffs were to start as of right now, number 4, Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. I want to hear about that. Do you like where they're at number 4, or do you think there's another team that deserves to be at the number 4 spot instead of Notre Dame? Because we all know how you feel about Notre Dame. So before you start, I'm fine with Notre Dame being at 4. I like their schedule, in my opinion. I like who they fought so far. They know, hell, we can't lose a single game.
No,
they know
that's
that.
True.
With no conference, and if you mess around and have to be in the topic with 3 1-ranked teams, then you're probably going to lose that because they've probably won their championships, and you don't have a championship at all to show for it. And the fact is, their schedule, they're favored in every game for the rest of the season. You better win these games. So, like again, we'll throw in number 4, and if they continue to win it, they just show, they're undefeated. They got to be in there, period.
I don't like Michigan's schedule. Not Michigan. I don't like Michigan's schedule. I don't like Notre Dame's schedule either, but I can't argue with the committee. They're undefeated. Every other team on this list, but Bama, Clemson, and Notre Dame have a loss. Central Florida is undefeated, but that's a different topic of discussion. So every other team in this top 10 has a singular loss. Notre Dame can't really. The only team that could have been ranked above them, which was the team that was ranked above them, LSU, the schedule that they've played, we're week 10, they've played 9 games. 8 of their opponents have been above 500.
Yes.
6 of their opponents were previously ranked in the AP poll. 2 of them ranked inside the top 10. Nobody in the country has played a tougher schedule than these guys, and they've come out with only 1 loss. So that's the only team that's really deserving to be ranked ahead of Notre Dame.
Yeah, I feel you. Okay, I got you. Yes, sir. Speaking of LSU, they are number 3, and I'm not shocked because like you said, they faced. Start off with Miami in a neutral site. Then facing teams like beating Georgia and then losing a close game to Florida, and then just playing a tough schedule. You had no choice but to put them in the top 4 because only 1 loss and that tough schedule they had so far. If only Bama would go through that tough schedule to start off, but it hasn't happened. So LSU well deserved number 3. Number 2, Clemson, and I'm gonna tell you this right now. I had faith in them last year, but although I wasn't too big on their quarterback, and he was the ultimate reason why they did not beat Alabama. Let's just be real about that. I think with this team right now, Clemson, and they've shown when Trevor Lawrence is healthy, like he was hurt, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they had a fight against Syracuse.
That Syracuse game.
Yeah, but they got it squeezed out. But the last 2 prior games he's been healthy, man, they have not just won, but they have dominated.
Lights out football.
You understand it's Florida State, but still in Florida State, you're supposed to have it's supposed to be a semi-decent blowout. You went by 20, 25, but then they went out there, and I looked at one point, it was 45-3 in the fourth quarter in Florida State. That is horrible. They want to destroy Florida State, and that's why they're number 2. And they are right now, in my opinion, outside of LSU, they're the only team that has a threat against our number 1 seed, Alabama. So talk about number 2, Clemson, and of course number 1, Bama, because we all know there's nothing to say about Bama.
Clemson, when Trevor Lawrence is healthy, play as good a football as you'll ever see.
Yeah.
They don't make mistakes. They're lights out. They're aggressive on offense. And Trevor Lawrence can sling it. Everybody wants to run around here talking about how all these crazy plays that Tua is making. But if you just sit back and watch Trevor Lawrence's film and just watch this man throw the ball, there's not a prettier ball that's been thrown this year. He can just sit back there and sling footballs. And it's crazy.
So a quick recap: number 12, Central Florida, UCF. Number 11, Florida, the Gators. Number 10, Ohio State Buckeyes. Number 9, the Kentucky Wildcats. Number 8, Wazoo, Washington State Cougars. Number 7, the Oklahoma Sooners. Number 6, the Georgia Bulldogs. Number 5, Michigan Wolverines. Number 4, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Number 3, the LSU Tigers. Number 2, the Clemson Tigers. And at number 1, Alabama Crimson Tide, Roll Tide. But let's talk about the matchups for this week and week 10. We'll start with the lower ones. West Virginia at Texas. Texas pretty much cemented themselves out of the championship playoff format. West Virginia has a slightly good chance. Do they go out there and beat Texas?
I think they do. West Virginia has more to play for in this scenario. This game, while not important in terms of the big picture in the college football playoff, massive implications in a Big 12 championship game. You're talking about the number 2 and 3 seed in the Big 12 duking it out on field. And you have to believe the winner of this game goes on to play Oklahoma for the conference championship. So I think West Virginia's going to come out with that backing them. I like Texas. I like their defense. But West Virginia at home.
Guess what? That's going to be our game of the week. Team Beta versus Team CeeLo, because I'm going with Texas. Yes, I'm fine on the Texas bandwagon as I'm rooting for those guys to win because, I picked them to win. I think that at home, they'll go ahead and deliver a shocking victory. Not really shocking, but they'll be able to, because these are the type of games I worry about Texas. The lower games, against the unranked teams, I worry about them. But these kind of games, I know that they always step up to the occasion. I think that they'll actually kind of rout West Virginia in a big win. So we'll see about that.
Hot takes here, folks.
So Texas, I'm going with Texas, Team CeeLo's. West Virginia's Team Beta, we'll go with that. Penn State at Michigan. Here's what it's all about. You want Michigan to have a good schedule. You want them to face somebody. Here it is. It's Penn State, who isn't the juggernaut from last year.
No.
Not at all, with Saquon Barkley in the NFL now. But still a really good team, and it'd be nice for the resume to get a win over a 14th ranked Penn State. So see about that. Georgia at Kentucky. This one is going to be really, really huge. It's basically for the SEC.
This decides the SEC East.
East, yeah, exactly. Georgia at Kentucky, man. Your thoughts on it and who you got?
I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be an interesting game. Kentucky, on paper, they look kind of mediocre, but when you watch them on the field, they look like a good football team. They look like a solid football team. They make mistakes, but they don't make killer mistakes. They don't fumble the ball, in that 3rd and 10 scenario when they really need a conversion. They don't just go out and fumble the ball. They do make mistakes, but they don't shoot themselves in the foot. They don't make those killer mistakes. Georgia, obviously, also a very disciplined squad, the slightly better squad on paper. I'm still going to take Georgia in this one. I don't think Kentucky's quite ready to jump that hill yet, but boy, are they looming close. The East might be a little bit more open than it has been.
Yeah, than we thought. Yeah, you just Florida and Georgia pretty much, and now Kentucky's sneaking in. Well, look here, it's a great Cinderella story, but even Cinderella had the midnight come on and it was gone. I think Georgia goes out there and just dominates this game. Kentucky isn't really LSU in my opinion. They have that great defense and a nice running game. You can always bring it to games. I think this is where Georgia clamps them down and actually puts a whipping on them. 3 touchdown score. I'm going to say Georgia wins. I'm going to say 37-16. I'm just throwing it out there. 37-16. Now, the biggest game of the week of the probably season, to be honest. The last hope for all Bama haters / college football wanted to be anyone can win type of people like ourselves. LSU is at home in Death Valley against the number 1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide Crimson Tide, excuse me, I'm sorry. And this is going to be a game. This is the first time I've seen Bama coming to LSU, and I really think, man, LSU has a chance. Have a really good chance. If they can. Now, why I say that, because usually Bama, throughout the years, they've had that 1 or 2 tough games, but it's almost like you've been too clean this year. No. And your opponents have been that bad.
Tua hasn't even played a minute in the fourth quarter.
Thank you. Nothing in the fourth quarter, even barely the third quarter, barely. So that's probably why other quarterback wanted to stay, because he knew he was just get playing time regardless. Hurt. So this is going to be a really good game. This is probably the game of the year, and it should be the game of the year. This, you might as well call this the national championship. Because if Bama goes out there and wins this game, I mean, who's going to beat Bama? If you can go into LSU and beat LSU in Death Valley with that crowd, And with this ranking and this team, that says a lot about Alabama. But tell me your thoughts, man. Bama versus LSU, 1 versus 3.
Man, I can't wait to watch this game.
Let's get it.
You already mentioned it's going to be in Baton Rouge at night, and this atmosphere is crazy.
Yes.
Coming in, Alabama is and has been an offensive juggernaut this year, which is a strange thing to think if you've been following college football for any amount of time, because Alabama's never, ever had an offense like this in the history of Alabama football.
That's true. The quarterback makes a difference.
Tua Tagovailoa is slinging balls and making plays happen. That offensive line is susceptible, though. The offensive line is susceptible, and the defensive line for LSU is going to be able to get in there and get pressure. And you saw this last week. If you watched the Tennessee game, Tennessee was able to get in there and make some pressure.
Yeah.
Kind of put him in some scrambling situations, running around. Mississippi State was able to kind of do the same thing, even though they blew Mississippi State out of the water. But they were still kind of – that offensive line's been kind of susceptible, and LSU has the defense to make good on those holes. Not only do they have the pass rushers on the defensive line, Devin White will be out for the first half due to a really, really bad targeting suspension.
And I'm surprised they haven't apologized, said, "Oh, bad, he can play." That was just dumb, in my opinion.
But once he comes back in, roaming around in that linebacker position, he can absolutely make anybody on the football field pay. He can catch anybody. He can tackle anybody. And then when you're talking about throwing balls up in the air, LSU's got some of the best corners in the game, and they've got some of the best ball hawking corners in the game. These guys they don't just play the receivers. These guys play the ball. They want interceptions.
Yeah.
They want to catch it. They don't just want to defend it. And that, I think, is going to be the area to watch this game. It's usually in this game you're looking for LSU's offense versus Alabama's defense. This time around, I'm looking for who's going to create the most turnovers, because this LSU defense has been creating turnovers. Alabama's defense has been creating turnovers. So you're looking at who is going to be creating the most.
Right.
Because the offense is, while LSU's offense is not explosive through the air as Alabama's offense has been this season, they have made the air game work. They've been pounding people on the ground. When you're talking about how you beat Alabama, ball control is the main thing that you're going for. You need to be controlling the football and wearing that defense down. LSU's built to do that. They've got 3 running backs they can rotate in so everybody can stay fresh. So you're talking about Joe Burrow versus Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
That's what this game is going to be about. What do you got?
I feel you. At the end of the day, I still think Alabama is too much. We've always said this, man. Bama, they got a really good team. I mean, since Saban's been there for almost a decade now, you're like, man, that team is good. But quarterback sucks. And I was like, can you imagine this team with a quarterback? And I'm like, yeah, but they seem to never pick them. They never get them. And this Tua kid comes out. Alabama with a quarterback is what we're seeing right now with Alabama playing. They're just destroying teams in the first half, and they're done with a great great college quarterback into it, who could be in a couple years a first round pick with his talent that he has. But I'm like this: LSU is going to be obviously the best defense that Bama has faced.
Yes.
But on the opposite, Bama will be the best defense that LSU's faced. And we've seen that LSU can struggle scoring points. I got a feeling Bama's going to come in there and just win this game. I'm not going to say easily, but thoroughly. And in the fourth quarter, it won't be this tight, tense game that we're all hoping for. I say Bama wins by a cool 13 points. I say Bama wins 27-14. I hate to say that, but I don't see anybody. And there's even Clemson, who has I think is a nice squad, who could be them and LSU. But hopefully I'm wrong, because I like chaos in college football. But we're looking at it. This might be an all-time great Alabama team. And if LSU can find a way to win this game, I mean, good for them. And I hope so, because chaos is really good for college football. But as of right now, I got to see it to believe it. And we will find out. We'll see it come Saturday, man. So, who you got, man?
I've got the Tigers in this one.
There we
because in the end, if you come into LSU, this is the team you come here to play. This is the team you come here to beat. This LSU team is averaging 30 points per game. Now Alabama is averaging 59 points per game. But I think that LSU's defense is going to be able to create turnovers and cap those points. And I think LSU reaches their season average. I'm going to call this one 31-28.
Ooh, I like that. That'd be a nice. That'd be something to watch though. I'm excited about it. We're all excited about it. This is basically a national championship feel, and it could still be. You never know. It could be a rematch of the national championship. You just never know about if LSU can run a table or Bama, whatever happens. You never know. They could meet in the finals. We saw two SEC teams play last year in the national championship with Georgia and Alabama. So he's got LSU. I'm rocking with Alabama, but things can change big time when it comes down to what's going to play. It's going to be a great atmosphere, and we are excited about it. So comment down below. Give us your thoughts on LSU versus Bama. Who is going to win and why? Let us know in the comments. We're excited to hear what you got going on. And the rankings. What is your most shocking assessment of the college football playoff rankings for the first week? Let us know as well. So for Brian Wilkinson, I'm your host, Carlos Clayton. This is Uneducated Sports Talk, presenting college casual football talk. That being said, sports fans, you guys know what time it is. Stay smart. Stay uneducated. Peace.